Exhausted delegates failed to agree on bigger cuts to greenhouse gas emissions, but poor countries will get compensation.
Turkey has launched airstrikes over northern regions of Syria and Iraq. This comes a week after an explosion in Istanbul killed 6 people and injured more than 80.
At dawn on Sunday, exhausted negotiators at the extended summit managed to agree on what's called a loss and damage fund. It'll compensate poor countries that suffer from extreme weather events such as floods, droughts and heat waves that have been made worse by the carbon emissions of rich countries.
I now invite the COP to adopt the decision entitled Funding Arrangements for Responding to Loss and Damage Associated with the Adverse Effects of Climate Change, including focus on addressing loss and damage. I hear no objections. It's so decided.
But more importantly, bigger reductions in greenhouse gas emissions were not agreed on, to the dismay of many, including the EU and UN. And many of the exhausted delegates said the language put forward by the host Egypt backtracked on some of the commitments made at last year's UN climate change conference in Glasgow.
Turkey has launched airstrikes against targets in both northern Syria and Iraq. Ankara reportedly attacked some of the bases of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party and the Syrian People's Protection Units, groups that it blames for an explosion in Istanbul that killed at least 6 people and injured over 80 more. But both groups have denied their involvement. In Bulgaria, authorities have arrested 5 people in connection to the bombing. They are accused of helping a key suspect in the Istanbul explosion flee Turkey before they could be detained.
Russia has carried out more strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, 2 of its missiles hitting this fuel depot in Kherson. Under pressure from the Ukrainian military, Russia withdrew from the southern city a week ago. With the liberation, morale in Kherson is high, and it was given a further boost after the railway was fixed and the first train in months arrived from the capital Kyiv. But some city residents are still missing. There are mines everywhere, shops are shut, and there's not much electricity or water. Elsewhere, there are power outages and blackouts across the country. The head of the largest energy company has advised people to leave Ukraine if they can to help save electricity. Meanwhile, President Zelensky thanked the British Prime Minister who came to visit him and promised €57 million in air defence systems on Saturday. The UK has given more military aid than any other country apart from the United States.
Kazakhstan heads to the polls for its early presidential election, a vote that the country's current president is highly expected to win. The election comes after a bloody year in which more than 220 people, mostly protesters, were killed during demonstrations against the cost of living and fuel price hikes. It also comes as the country tries to move further away from Moscow and closer to Europe and China.
Elon Musk has restored Donald Trump's account on Twitter. It was suspended after a mob of the former president's supporters attacked the Capitol. Musk tweeted, "The people have spoken." He'd held a poll of Twitter users who'd narrowly voted in favour of Trump's return. But Trump has yet to write a new tweet, and he now runs a smaller rival platform called Truth Social.
The World Cup is almost here. The first ever in an Arab country, Qatar, but also arguably the most controversial in history, with corruption and poor human rights claims dogging the run-up to the tournament. Nonetheless, for many fans in the country, they can't wait for it to begin.
The fireworks were amazing. I was in 25 events like this, you know. I was at the Olympic Games, at Rio and Tokyo, last World Cup at Russia, but I never see these fireworks in any place in the world.
Fans were out in the streets this evening. However, crowd control in this small country remains a problem, with thousands being turned away from a nearby concert. Qatar has also made the last-minute decision to ban the sale of beer at stadia. So far, the Western discussion of this tournament has focused on politics. It's hoped here that this will change when the matches begin.